and things are safe with all of your family, have you been exploring paths of eligibility to return to college basketball since that seems to be the flavor du jour?
Hey, the way college is set up now, I think you get 5 years. I got one more year left.
You can muster it together for one more year till what? The eligibility runs out, the body breaks down, or you're just ready to go back to being a media man?
I prefer the media, but if I tried to play right now, we definitely going with the body breaking down because I don't think people understand how much running is involved, how much mental preparation is involved. And I think I could do the running, but the mental part, I don't think I could do it anymore.
That is interesting. The mental part. Now, let's be real here. I would imagine mental preparation in the media, as hard as you work, and we hear you and will this coming Saturday for Duke at Carolina, probably not as strenuous because the stakes aren't as high as they are when you got 19,000 or so people watching you.
Yeah, you know what? When you play a rival, you don't even think about the people in the stands. You just worry about your opponent in front of you, and you just try to get a win. You try to step out. If you're at home, you're trying to blow someone out. If you're on the road, you're trying to send people home quiet. So it's just one of those things about rivalry games that brings out the best in players and coaches.
Robert Horry with us here in the Fast Lane. RK Horry on Twitter to keep up with him. He's got the Big Shot Bob podcast and is generous enough to join us here in the Fast Lane. Bigger picture, though, I know you're familiar with Auburn with Charles Bediako. He's been a point of contention with that. Virginia's got one of their own who's played professionally, and Testa Ritter, who has played professionally, is at Virginia. Heck, Neoclis of Dallas was in the Greek League. He's at Virginia Tech. So we're littered within our backyard. What is your assessment of the blurred lines of what is deemed eligible and okay to be a professional when it comes to college athletics now?
It's so messed up. I think once you make a decision as an individual to say, hey, I'm going to go into the draft, you lose your eligibility. We got to start learning how to live with our decisions because this society now is all about, okay, I'm making a decision. Oh, it's not working out for me. I want to go back and rewind it. If I can hit the rewind button, I will rewind it too, but you can't. You have to live with the decisions. And we're just creating, a bigger problem for athletes. And I don't think these colleges understand it. It's about learning to become young men and young women and moving on in life. Now you got to understand that, I make decisions. I got to live with it. I make good decisions sometimes. Sometimes I make bad. But the bigger point is it's messing it up for the high school kids. The high school kids that are coming in now, they're trying to figure out where am I going to go. Now I got to wait because I got to wait to see if these pros going to backtrack and come back to school. Next thing you know, LeBron James going to be playing college basketball. It's just crazy.
It really is. I mean, and I'll ask this out of you as well, Robert, because you've got the perspective of being an analyst for Compass Media Networks, and we're grateful for Robert Horry's time today in the Fast Lane. But you're a dad. You are a granddad. I don't mean to date you in a bad way, but we do have to bring that up because as somebody in that spot, how does that look at and how do you view this differently in an era where, look, you got paid to play professionally in the NBA. I don't begrudge athletes for getting what they can, even if it's not in the professional ranks, but you also want them to grow up knowing, regardless of where they make it financially, they have, they understand consequences. How do you blend the two of those?
It's a hard blend. Because you look at certain teams, you look at certain players, they're making $3 million, and you got another kid who's over here making like $100,000. And I think, people understand the NBA is capped. And that's one of the things, only certain players can make a certain amount of money. And I think there needs to be a rule where they cap it in college sports. I know they say, well, you don't need to cap it, but it's becoming a disadvantage. I know I just heard some coaches complain about how they have no NIL money. I heard, you see teams like BYU that's able to offer guys $3 million. I like the Cinderella story, and there was not going to be any more Cinderella stories because the Cinderella teams can't afford the good players. And then when you do go to a school for 1 year, someone's going to poach you. There need to be a rule for that. In the NBA, you have those rules. And since college sports are becoming like professional sports, you need to have the same rules. And it's just crazy. And I love college basketball. I spent 4 years in college, and I loved it. And I learned how to become a young man. I learned how to become a man. And with all this going on, these kids are just bouncing for the money. And I'm not mad at them because I probably would have did it too if I knew I'm not going to the next level. I would try to rack up as much money as possible. But the NCAA need to do something Somebody need to come up with some kind of rules, some kind of, atonement for all these decisions that are being made.
When you look at it overall, it is an interesting blend and balance. And I agree with you. I don't fault the players. Some of them may not even make it to the NBA. So their earning potential is capped on what they can get at this particular time. Do you ultimately look at it as though this is more the college people in power? I don't want to call them leaders because nobody seemingly is led to get this thing solved. And that's disrespectful to the term leadership. But the people that have lots of power in college, is that ultimately where you say, hey, please be grown-ups for once?
No doubt. And I agree with you, everything you just said. And it's got to be someone that's got to be held accountable. You think about when the NCAA was making money off all these college kids that weren't getting paid, they had all these rules. Then, oh, you can't do this now that guys are getting paid. It's like, you know what? I don't care. It's a wild, wild west. Go do what you want to do. Someone needs to step up to the plate and say, hey, we need to implement these rules. Each team is only allowed $25 million or whatever it may be. And you this is how you spend it. It has to be a cap because there's going to be, you think about it. I got the Duke, North Carolina game, two of the most prestigious schools in the country. They NIL for their basketball teams are probably way higher than, let's say, let's go with Murray State, and you think about how good Murray State has been over the years with Popeye Jones, with John Morant. Those guys aren't going to be at Murray State anymore. They're going to be at North Carolina because they got the money. And what kids don't understand, you might make the money, but you're going to go sit behind a Caleb Wilson who's making 4 or 5. I don't know how much money he's making, but he's making more than you, and you're never going to play. So just go to a school, learn how to play, and then you never know. You might get that big payday, which is the NBA.
Robert Horry with us here in the Fast Lane. I mean, you're right. When you look at the NBA paydays and these, even bench players and role players are making 20 to 30 million a year. It's a drop in the bucket, college, what you could be hitting at that level. You mentioned Duke, Carolina. You will be on the call this coming Saturday for Duke at Carolina. How much more spice does it feel like this rivalry has? Even though Duke, clearly they are the best team in the ACC, the Tar Heels have been much more competitive, including what we saw a couple of weeks ago when they came to our backyard and had a nice comeback victory at Virginia.
You know what? The thing about North Carolina, they're one of those teams that's like up and down. But I think what you're really looking at is the matchups between Caleb Wilson and Cameron Boozer. Two guys are probably going to go top 5 in the draft next season. So, but don't count out North Carolina. They're athletic. They're a really spicy team. They like to play good defense, and they're at home. And anytime you got a team coming into your building that's a rival, highly ranked, everybody talking about they got the best freshman in the country, and you got a freshman on your team that's really good, it's going to be an exciting game. So I look for this to be a close-knit game, but I'm still, the part of me wants to root for Duke just because, my son used to play with Nicholas Kaminian at Harvard Westlake, and I kind of know him, kind of like worked with him in high school. So I'm going to be rooting for Duke, but I'll be rooting for a good game.
Yes, indeed. Well, you'll probably be treated to one, and we probably will when we hear you on the call for Compass Media Networks as Robert Horry is with us here in the Fast Lane. He's at RK Horry on Twitter and Robert Horry 7X on Instagram. We are at Fast Lane Ed Lane on all of our podcast and social media platforms. You mentioned that matchup, though, between Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson. Is this more pressure or opportunity for Caleb Wilson of Carolina? Because we know what Cam Boozer's done. He's consistently done it. Whereas for Wilson, it seems like this is the chance for him to really assert himself into that upper echelon of draft prospects, but also guys that could carry a team deep into March.
Yeah, when you talk about Caleb Wilson, one thing you always talk about him also, his ability to score, but other than his ability to play defense. And this is going to be a true test for him. You think about when you watch players play, for me, I like to see how hard they play. And one of the reasons Cameron Boozer is so freaking good is he plays so hard. He leaves it all out on the court. Are you able to match his will? You got to match his intensity. And that's just going to be a great test for Caleb Wilson. And this probably is, I bet this game probably have more scouts at it than any game because they want to see this matchup just as bad as I do. So I think this could be a statement game for Caleb Wilson, who I really love the way he plays.
What does it do for Caleb Wilson of Carolina? And I know we're talking about that, but the matchup is so intriguing between he and Cam Boozer that Boozer, there are a lot of freshmen. This may be one of the most talented freshman classes we've had in college basketball. Even if you just count the legit freshmen, not like the ones that are in their 20s right now, Rob. But for Cam Boozer, you would know this, but His dad's an NBA player in Carlos Boozer. There seems like there's a different basketball IQ and maturity for a player of that level. What does that make, and how does that make this matchup intriguing for you?
I think the fact that you had a dad that was great is Carlos Boozer. Then you have a brother, and he's probably one of those guys that's pushing too because you're twins. You got the competitive nature. It's just the pedigree is there, and it's so many things that can attribute to your greatness. And you look at him, and when you watch people's games, you try to see, is there a flaw in their game? I don't really pick up on any flaws in his game. And that's from learning basketball, watching basketball. And from what I hear, it wasn't his dad. It was his mom that really taught him how the game. And that's really a plus when you got individuals in the house and you can learn from both parents.
Yeah. I mean, you got that much basketball IQ. That seems like that would be the hardest thing to replicate, much like the insight will be hard to replicate when Carolina and Duke square off from the Dean Dome this coming Saturday. Robert Horry with us here in the Fast Lane. He's at RK Horry on Twitter. He's at Robert Horry 7X on Instagram, and the Big Shot Bob podcast are all the ways to keep up with him. Robert, we appreciate your making time for us today. Thank you so much, and hopefully you don't have to deal with any weather delays from what has transpired here on the East Coast. It looks like it should be out of the way for you this weekend, meaning you can be as quick and fluid as you need to if they call on you for that extra year of eligibility.
Hey, if I did have an extra year, it would be played somewhere like here in California where it's almost 80 degrees.
hard to beat it, and you're just making our listeners more jealous, Robert. Not the way we envisioned ending today.
Thanks, man, for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm not trying to make anybody jealous. I'm just sending facts.
hey, you are, and it just is what it is, as they say. Robert, thank you for your time. Glad to chat. Prayers for safe travels for you and yours.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Have a great day, man.
Indeed. Robert Horry with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return from college basketball to high school hoops, we'll touch on the good stuff coming out of the Seminole District, the meh stuff, another postponement because of the weather with Heritage and EC Glass, and the tragedy, obviously, with John McSweeney and Liberty giving it an effort to bounce back starting tomorrow night against Brookville. We'll touch on all of that with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR in Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR in Sports.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Have you been hit by the winter doldrums? Are you itching for a place with more than a couple hours of daylight? Start your journey to a warm weather escape with us. Scuba classes are forming right now at Aquatrek Adventures. We can have you ready for a warm, relaxing excursion to a sunny tropical destination, including our spring getaway to sunny Florida. Take the first step. Call Aquatrek Adventures on Mill Lane in Salem and visit our website at aquatrekadventures.com to sign up for the certification or your trip.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road, and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Looking for everything happening in and around Central Virginia that used to be in the morning paper? Start your day at the lynchburgportal.com. Get the latest news updates from Bill Trevero, plus up-to-date weather from VTRN's own in-house meteorologist, Matt Ferguson. So you're always in the know before you head out the door. Want to listen on the go? Stream classic hits on Rewind 103.9. Get breaking local news on WIQO, or catch the best sports talk and play-by-play on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, all right from the portal. Looking to save? Check out insane radio deals for great local discounts, or explore local podcasts featuring the voices and stories that make our community special. Plus, connect with local businesses through the Lynchburg Business Alliance directory and stay in the loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the lynchburgportal.com. Your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So understandably, so much of the last week in the Fast Lane and in the local media sphere, from our great TV reporters and obviously newsadvance.com's Bryson Gordon and our guest in a moment, Bob Alvis of the Sports with A podcast, who have all been focused on the tragic passing at age 66 of John McSweeney, the Liberty Minutemen boys basketball coach. And I had a real chance earlier this week. First of all, Bob Alvis has a couple of good pieces. One is an article he wrote right afterwards about his interactions with John McSweeney. We will ask Bob about that in a moment. But I don't normally delay getting to our guests, but it seems like it would be wise to do so, to play something that I recommend you listening in full to Bob Alvis's interview. It's at the Sports Buffet on Twitter for a link up to it. But Eli Brown, who coaches Booker T. Washington out in Oklahoma, had this to say to Bob Alvis in an interview earlier this week. One of them, and this is the first one, about how John McSweeney connected with the Bedford community and connected with his players and got them to a point where they were able to elevate their play and grow into a program where they are one of the best in a very loaded Region 2C, because he saw people for people, not everything else, including in a spot where back at Booker T. Washington, he was literally the only white guy around the program, and yet he didn't view himself that way. He didn't view anyone else that way, and it was such an asset and speaks to the character of John McSweeney.
My boys got to see a white gentleman treat them with respect and love and kindness. And I don't know if he understood how far that went, but it went so far to know that John never looked at those boys or myself or anyone else on my staff. We had an all-black staff. We had an all-black team. He was the only white person around us. And he never made anybody feel awkward, and nobody felt awkward around him. We took him in and he took us in, and we all became really, really close with Coach John.
So that's Eli Brown, Booker T. Washington in Oklahoma, speaking with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast. And the ability to connect in a different manner is so impressive. One of the biggest compliments I got when I went to college in Memphis was from a friend of mine, still a friend now, and is a native Memphian, and said, you're one of the few people that could come from outside the Memphis area and find a way to connect with people, which people are often afraid of doing that. Because Memphis is 65% African-American. It's a very high crime area, and, we make fun of it at times. But, the people from that area love each other and love that area. There's still a lot of good people there, even though you hear about the bad ones on the first 48 and gangsters and Drugs Inc. and all that. And to connect with people, you have to see beyond that. And it was such a testament of John McSweeney. I think that's so impressive and so cool to hear that was an asset, to the point where John McSweeney actually on that team, Booker T. Washington in Oklahoma, as Eli Brown, their head coach, or coach at the time, mentioned, he was an enforcer, the guy that when they needed to get stuff done, he was the muscle behind it. The one white guy had that type of respect.
If we were having issues with a player, we would tell John to handle it, because those kids respected him with the utmost respect, and they would never cross Coach John for some reason. And I think it's because of how he treated them. And those kids love it. So we say, hey, John, we need you to go take care of this with so-and-so. And he take care of it, and he smoothed it over, and that was the end of it. And that's the kind of man he was, and how he rubbed off on other people, that he could talk to anybody, he could deal with anybody, he could make anybody understand what needed to happen for the greater good. He was just a great guy.
That's Eli Brown, Booker T. Washington, Oklahoma, on the Sports Buffet podcast with our next guest, Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, who's with us in the fast lane. But it is so worth bringing that up because, Bob, as we welcome you into the fast lane, first of all, we appreciate your time. I know this is not the conversation that you or I wanted to have about high school hoops at any point ever, but especially in the middle of the season. But I appreciated John McSweeney covering him at Seminole District Media Days and hearing about him from others around the district. Appreciated him more when I read your initial article and thought piece and what Bryson Gordon said so well at newsadvance.com, among the other media people who've paid their tribute, and from coaches in the Seminole District. But it got taken to a whole new level with that type of commentary from what Eli Brown mentioned. What is your perspective now on the legacy? And let's be real, the whole, not just in a basketball sense, but the whole on a personal level that Bedford will continue to feel for this season and beyond from the tragic passing at age 66 of John McSweeney.
I've been doing this on and off for probably at least 25 years. I can never remember a sitting head coach passing away during the season. John McSweeney, I think, you got to remember, this team was not good in the past 2 years. I want to say, less than, you can count the wins on one hand within the last year. Well, within the last 2 years, you might have to use two hands. His first year, it wasn't good. His second year, it got a little bit better. This year, it had seemed that the corner had been turned a little bit. But, yeah, to hear Coach Brown and others talk about, it's cliche, but John McSweeney essentially, in my eyes, didn't see color.
That is so impressive to be able to do that, to see people for who they are, to see people for who they can be, which is really a big thing of the John McSweeney legacy. You referenced what he meant to Liberty and how he turned that particular program around. What does his legacy mean to Liberty in terms of, you think of football now, Brad Womack, interim coach, but had a good year this past year, given the hand he was dealt. Girls basketball, and Shania Brown's been a big part of it with some of her teammates and staff, and now John McSweeney and what he did with basketball, to where now the town of Bedford can feel a level of pride, and does, even with this tragic passing.
With all due respect to Brad Womack on the football staff, Justin Waldron, head coach of girls basketball, and others, I never heard John McSweeney say we're playing up, because they are. They're playing 3A and 4A schools on a regular basis. They would play 2A schools when they get in the playoffs. But, I never heard John McSweeney complain about playing up. And not to get back to one other topic real quick, not to belittle it, this man was 66. I mean, he was in his 60s when he came here to the Lynchburg area. And if you don't see color within your 60s, I think that is remarkable, because I think there are people in their 50s who can see, hey, there's a color divide here. 60s, that's even more remarkable in my eyes.
Yeah, it really is. And to get to that point, to be an example, what type of example is that to the Liberty players, to where they can now see people for who they are? And clearly, when you hear what the players and their families have said in different outlets since the passing of John McSweeney, that his impact was wearing off on them in a way that, cliche as it is, that's what the job of a coach in high school is partly to be.
Yeah, I think the job, a lot of people will say I'm a coach and I'm a teacher, but you really have to be an encourager, I think, to be a lifelong, lasting impact. Jeff Monroe talks about it a lot. He's the head coach at Jefferson Forest. But I think John McSweeney, if you weren't listening to him, I want to know why.
Bob, to piggyback even further off of this, so many people that admired the work of John McSweeney were within the Seminole District. We played the bite of Brad Bradley from football, and he was the one who organized Seminole District football media days and kind of got this whole trend going. But you can carry it over to basketball, and this is an example of it. The competition is fierce. The rivalries are intense. I know there's cliches are there, but they are cliches for a reason. But what does it say about the fact that in spite of all that, there is still an element at the end of the day, the players, the coaches, and the teams in the Seminole District understand that we're still human, and we have a mission of trying to make these people great student athletes now, but great people well beyond their time, and that everyone seems to get that in this district.
I think John McSweeney brought a fact of I'm coaching hard, and I think other coaches like to be challenged. I mean, whether they say it or they don't. I'm sure a coach loves a blowout, don't get me wrong. But when a coach is challenged by another guy who's playing chess with him, it makes you work even harder. And I think John McSweeney was getting to do that. I mean, let's not deny he's got a really, really good player in Aiden Patchett, but he was making the players around Aiden Patchett believe too, and I think that's a big thing. Liberty is right now ranked at the top of Region 2C. That's a really, really, really tough region, though, to get out of, and we'll have to see what Corey Mason, the new head coach at Liberty, their first game is tomorrow night when they host Brookville. We'll see how that works out.
You mentioned Corey Mason and the role for him. I don't even know what to expect in this particular situation, other than a guy that's in that spot because they believe he can be the right stabilizing force for the people more than the players. But obviously, you want them to have as best they can. What do you expect? What can we expect out of Corey Mason?
No idea, because this is such an unprecedented situation. Coach Mason's got leadership because he coached the JV team. I have no idea. I mean, I don't think you're trying to replace John McSweeney. Corey Mason, be Corey Mason.
I know people love to make decisions and ideas, good or bad. I mean, am I off base in saying, you can admire Corey Mason? I'm sure, it seems like from what people have said, he'll come out of this and give it his best effort and do the best he can in this. But I mean, now is not the time to be judging the guy on his win-loss record. It's what can he do to make these people the best they can possibly be during a tragic time? Is that a reasonable assessment for how people should view Corey Mason? Even in the basketball sense, put the wins-loss aside for now, as much as you'd love to go deep into the season. And if that's how you honor John McSweeney, you played the best of your ability. It's more about a lot of the other intangibles.
Yeah, you're dealing with the unprecedented to where if you win, did you win because Coach Mason coached you, or did you win because of what you learned from McSweeney and you were honoring him? Did you lose because of what Coach Mason taught you, or did you lose because you were just too emotional? I don't want to say that Corey Mason's got a free pass, but I don't know. I mean, when you win or lose, who gets the credit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it matters at this point. Like, am I all base in saying it's less even about that and more just come together, give it the best effort, and the victory for Liberty boys basketball, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that they are giving it a shot. Wouldn't it be easy to say we lost our coach, we're too distraught? Instead, they are going out there and going to try to put their best foot forward, which is the most as admirable as you could find.
I don't know. I don't know because it's never been a situation to where it's not like Krzyzewski or Dean Smith passed away when they were number one in the nation. You're number one in your region, which means you've got the outside track. I don't know if it doesn't matter or not. I mean, I'm sure it matters to the people in Bedford, but does it not matter to? I don't know. I mean, it's such a hard question. It's a good question, but it's such a hard question to answer because I could find 10 people on the street, 5 are going to say each way. Does it matter to me? Yeah. I mean, does it not matter to me? Yeah. I mean, I know I'm playing, both sides of that coin, but I don't know what to expect. I really have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I have no idea what to expect. You tip your cap to everybody for giving it their best shot, but we'll get our first look at it tomorrow against Brookville at 7 p.m. over at Liberty High School. We'll wrap it up on this, Bob, and I know we wanted to get at some point to signing day, and it's really worth mentioning, the fact that LCA had 10 student athletes sign yesterday. Jefferson Forest had Pearson Brooks, the linebacker who signs with Ferrum. Josiah Bryan is gone from boys basketball at LCA to Randolph-Macon, and Jaden Coward as well. He signed with Elon from football, and those are just a couple of them. But we'll get to that at a different time. What do you expect tomorrow for Brookville and Liberty, other than a Bedford area community that I would imagine is going to do everything they can to rally behind their school, their team, and their community?
Well, I think it's a good matchup because Liberty is not playing a team that's at the top of the district, so it's not. They're not playing EC Glass or LCA to where they really got to bring everything. Now, that's not. With that being said, you still got to bring it when you play Brookville because it's a game you should win. And to me, those are almost scarier. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I think, honestly, once the ball is tipped and the kids get playing, that'll be the best thing for them because having experienced loss in my own life, everybody is almost suffocating you for those first couple weeks. The out-of-town guests and everything are, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? What can I do for you? But there's a time where you want to kind of get back to normal. The bad part about that is when you get to that quote-unquote normal part, then you don't have anybody there. So I think Liberty basketball players definitely need love without suffocation.
That's great. My mom has always said that as well. She obviously she's lost both her mom and her dad, and she's always said it's not even the moment immediately after. It's once everything dies down and everybody else returns to their normal life, and then you have to deal with a totally new normal. How different that really is. Bob Alvis, we're grateful for your time and perspective today in the Fast Lane. Thank you so much for sharing it. I know we would touch on other topics, and we will again soon, but this is so unprecedented that we wanted to get your perspective, and you did as well as we always expect you to do.
Appreciate you, Ed.
Bob Alvis with us here from the Sports Buffet podcast here in the Fast Lane. That does it for us today on W227BG Timberlake, WVGMA in Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville Southside. We appreciate Bob. We appreciate you. We'll kick it on to Freddie and Harry in progress for about a half hour until we get to Virginia Tech Lady Hokies basketball at Notre Dame tonight. Then tomorrow, it's TJ Wilkerson in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app at 93.3 FM.
Shannon is in tears, y'all. As a producer behind the glass right